The Hangar 9 quarter scale Super Cub has been on my short list of must-have planes for a long time, and now I've finally been able to get one. The Piper Cub is the most popular high-wing model in the world, and the Super Cub version expands that flight envelope even more. I think the Super Cub would be considered a standoff scale model, and while I'm not real into scale things, I do like the looks of the Cub. I want the Super Cub to be a workhorse Sunday flyer for me, so I left out the seats and scale pilot that came with the kit. There wasn't any good place to put the access plates inside of the plane, so I put them outside where I wouldn't have to fuss with the doors every time I wanted to shut the radio off. The kit comes with a fuel tank that fits under the dash in the nose of the plane, but I wanted a larger fuel tank, and I wanted it backed by the CG. That's also where I put my 5,000 milliamp battery packs that let me fly all day. This is a big plane and safety is important, so I used the SmartFly Power Expander Plus. That gives me full battery redundancy and an optical kill for the ignition. The elevator halves and rudder are all good sized pieces and are all driven by individual servos, and they all have a lot of authority when you're flying it. One of the things I'm not so hot on is the plastic ends on the tail flying wires. With all the shake from a gas engine, I don't expect these to live very long. I expect I'll be replacing these with a Sullivan solder-up cable system. I hate tail wheels that are controlled by a pair of coil springs, so I use this tiller model from Red Wing RC. The tiller arm is made from spring wire so it absorbs the shocks of the wheel, but it still steers very positively. The rudder is driven by a cable pull-pull system. I'd rather see ball links everywhere in a plane like this, but these clevises are good quality and they work just fine. You get these wheels and tires with the kit, and they're very nice. But I had a pair of these bigger tires with aluminum wheels, so they won and stayed on the plane. Rubber bands may have been the hot setup for the working suspension 30 years ago, but today is different. A friend of mine made these bungees up from cord he gets from Balsa USA, and this works a ton better, plus you can adjust it and they don't break and fall off. The Hangar 9 Super Cub comes with these lunges and even strings in place for installing the optional light kit. I've seen these planes with lights in them and they do look very cool. This is another place where I'm just not that scale, so I installed the lenses and skipped the lights. The ailerons and flaps really add to the scale looks of this plane because of the plastic covers they put on them at the factory. And you really want to pay attention to the instructions when you install the ailerons because there is a left and a right. And they look almost identical, but they're not. I also like how the ailerons fit in the coves in the trailing edge of the wing and use pin hinges. Here again, pay attention to the instructions because they tell you how to install these hinges correctly. I went to aluminum arms and 440 ball links on the ailerons just because I'm old school and that works better. The full-scale Cub has pull-pull aileron linkages and they include a dummy one on the top that doesn't do anything, but one of the arms was broke off, so I sealed everything up and took the other one off too. And if I catch anybody running alongside of this plane down the runway to see if the top linkage is on, I'm going to slap you. The flaps are down only and have a fully hidden servo and linkage. Follow the instructions closely when you're making up the linkages and everything will be just fine. The struts are functional and are called flying struts because they have a rounded leading edge and a sharp trailing edge, and you can get this stuff on the wrong side of the plane like I did, and a friend of mine corrected that for me. You can take these center pins out and fold the struts down to make them easier to transport. The Hangar 9 Super Cub will fly just fine on a 30 or 35 cc engine, but I decided to stuff my DLE Twin 40 in it. I even thought ahead and shortened up the standoff by about 1/4 of an inch to help the CG some, and that made things a little cramped. And we're apparently not going to have a whole lot of bottom to the cowl, but don't look. I actually spent quite a bit of time making the templates and using them to try and keep the cutting to a minimum on the cowl, but there's just a lot that has to be cut out. And I'd find out that I'm going to have to use these extensions as well. And that meant I get to spend some quality time with my Dremel tool that I don't especially get along real well with when I'm cutting cowls. I get the job done, but they could probably be a bunch prettier. Thankfully I'm not that much in the scale. There just wasn't any room to bring the plug wires out through the cowl, but I kind of liked the way they look running up the sides. The main two front holes were half open and half black, but I ground out the black part and opened up the whole thing. All that's left is to get my Hangar 9 Super Cub in the air, and you're going to have to come back to see the next segment for that. Until then, it's a big secret.